Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, a podcast centered on the healing power of Jesus and what it means to walk in wholeness and calling in real life. This is a space for honest conversations about faith, healing, and restoration, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and how those truths meet us in everyday life. This podcast is supported by the Story Discernment Guide, a reflective resource created for those who sense they are carrying a story meant for more, but want clarity before writing, publishing, or sharing it publicly. The guide is designed to help you pause, pray, and discern what you're stewarding without rushing or pressure. You can access it at storycalling.info. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hey everybody, today's guest is an explorer of both the outer world and inner landscape of the soul. LeAnn is a transformational life and business coach, NLP practitioner and trainer, human design and gene keys expert, and the founder of The Sovereign Soul, a movement that's helping people remember who they are and embody the freedom they were created for. From submitting to Mount Kilimanjaro and trekking the Everest Base Camp to living as a nomad in a 1971 Plymouth Cuda, Tina has spent years experimenting with life as her teacher. In that journey, she's found true joy, regaining her life force energy, and came home to herself. Through her work, she guides others to do the same, to unearth who they are at the core, dissolve old energetic patterns, and live in a coherence with the divine source within. For Tina, this isn't self-development, it is self-remembrance. Hello, Tina.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
You're so welcome. So share with us about, I'm interested of what part of you, have you always been adventurous, or did you just decide to jump up and go start exploring mountains?
I have always been adventurous. Since I was a little kid.
Nice.
Just always getting in trouble, climbing on rocks and trees and running off to discover things and scaring my parents so I've always had that adventurous spirit for sure. And I used to say that it came from my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and he had this adventurous side to him too, where him and his friends would hop on their bikes and ride their bikes across a couple states in the summer, during summer break from school. And so I always attributed it to that. And then when I learned
Yeah.
about human design, my profile is a 3-5, and the 3 line is experiential. It's I love to experience life by just jumping in and trying things. It's kind of like this trial and error line where I'll just try something and I don't really see it as a failure. I just see it as, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else. So
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's part of my design. It's who I've always been. And when I was a kid, I was a voracious reader. Like I would read, we'd go to the library every week and I would check out a pile of books every week. And I would sit at the bottom of the stairs and read the encyclopedias, and I'd look at National Geographic at the pictures. And part of me was like, this is all beautiful and I love it because it takes me to a different world, but I want to actually go see this stuff and feel the stuff and smell the air in these different places and eat the food and meet the people. And so yeah, I travel solo, and so yeah, I've always been like that.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah,
What is the most favorite place you've ever been to?
Nepal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Nepal, and then East Africa is the next one. So
Nice.
yeah, they're both just beautiful. Land, people, food, everything.
Oh, cool. That's super amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
traveling outside the US isn't, I haven't. I've been to Canada. People are like, that doesn't count. I'm like, it does too. But maybe it doesn't because I went before we had to have passports, you know.
Yeah,
So
when we could
yeah,
just
I mean,
drive through over the border.
yeah, right. That was back in 93. I mean, they did check. You didn't just drive. You had to
Yeah,
check, but
yeah, yeah,
you didn't have to have anything special to get
yeah,
back and forth. And so yeah, I always tell my kids, will be like, "Oh, you were born in the 1900s." I'm like, there was a lot of freedom more than there is now. But anyway, I love that you're adventurous. I'm actually about to take a 4-day trip just to central Missouri where the Ozark Mountains are, and I
Oh
got a
yeah.
cabin along a river called Taneycomo. It's like more like a It's created because of Table Rock Lake, and so I think it was actually probably one of the original rivers, and then they blocked it, or however that works. And it just like I could have stayed at a place. I wanted a place with a hot tub, right? Because I wanted to experience. I like water, and then I'm like, there was this place that was by concrete, and I'm like, I live by concrete. I want to be by water.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
able to find a place. There's just something to be said of getting into creation that just calms you. And I
yeah.
don't do it nearly enough. One, because I don't like bugs and snakes in nature.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, growing up as a farm girl, I would always be the one with like the stick with going around my head to get rid of the big flies.
That's so funny. Yeah, in the
Uh,
Midwest, the bugs. The bugs are a thing.
Yeah. So, well, share with us your journey on how you got to where you are, and because obviously we always know there's a what we've been through that has brought us here so that we can begin to help others. So, what was the big, aha moment that helped you realize you knew you were created to help others, with their own life?
Ooh, there's been many.
Uh-huh.
There's been quite a few throughout my life. And so I'll kind of like try to sum it up the best I can. So, like I said, as a kid, I was always very curious,
Mhm.
and I lived in kind of an tumultuous living experience, if you will.
Mhm.
My parents, my mom was addicted to pills for a while after a back injury, and my dad relied on alcohol as coping from the Vietnam War,
Okay.
and then yeah, and so there was a lot of inconsistency in my house, and so it kind of started there, like this. I was sort of, I always say, I created coping mechanisms to cope with their coping mechanisms, right?
Mhm.
And I know understand it now at a deeper level, but back then, when you're a child, you just do what you can. And so my coping mechanism was to be silent and to be invisible, to stay safe.
Mhm.
And so as I aged and grew up in high school, we had a psychology class that introduced me to like mental illness and these things, right? And so I started kind of diving into these things while at the same time, as you're like middle school age, you start like spending the night at friends' houses, and I would see their family dynamics. And then I was kind of tuning into like, wait, my family isn't like this family. And then along with the psychology class, and then I just kind of like started diving into all this stuff, like what is going on here, and how can I ensure that I'm a good person as an adult in my life? How can I lead my life the best that I can? And so that's kind of where it all started. And then it just kept, one thing after another. So back then, we didn't have the internet. And so I was reading books and magazines, and even a lot of people, we didn't even have words for a lot of this stuff, right? And it wasn't even part of the conversation back then like it is now. And so
Mhm.
fast forward then to um, I worked in corporate America for 20 years, and I got laid off, started a photography business, which, as you know, as an entrepreneur, that just brings you have to face everything to
Yeah.
make to launch your business and to keep it running. So that brought up more stuff. And then I ended up falling into having some health issues. And
Mhm.
I was getting migraines up to 5 days a week at one point, and adrenal gland failure and depression and all this, it kind of like all this stuff just kind of, our body is always speaking to us, right? And I wasn't listening
Right.
for many years. And then it
Mhm.
was just like, okay, you're going to listen now. And
Right, right, right.
so I went and the Western Med route and got CAT scans and all that stuff. And they couldn't really find the root cause of the migraines. And that was the big one for me because that was really debilitating. I couldn't,
Mhm.
it was so, I had a migraine, and then the next day I either had another migraine, or I was calling it a migraine hangover because I felt out of sorts the day after.
Sure.
And it was really I mean, I kept my business running. At that time, I had a portrait business, and I kept that running, but I couldn't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So when the doctors told me, after all these tests and everything, we don't know what's causing it. So here's a prescription and take this when you feel one coming on. And that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't satisfactory to me. I didn't want to live my life like that.
Sure.
So I went home and got online. I went to Google and what causes migraines, how to remedy migraines. And I went down a rabbit hole of then finding like energy healing and all these different modalities that the internet, like opened up our space, right? If it wasn't available to us or we didn't know about it within our community, now it
Mm-hmm.
was available. All these things were available. And then that's how I found human design and gene keys. And I kind of brought all that into my portrait photography business. I was doing branding photography at that time. And so I brought human design into, I was using human design with my um, branding photography clients, and then eventually just kind of separated that off into its own thing because it was just such a beautiful transformation that I was seeing in people. And I moved out of state to around that time. And so now that's how the Sovereign Soul came to be. And that's the very short and condensed version of the story. There's so much, there's so much context and everything.
Yeah.
So I felt the transformation so deeply within myself, and then along with NLP too, the transformation was happening so quickly. And I'm like, everybody needs to experience this. Everybody needs to know about this. It's such a beautiful modality, and you can use it along with whatever you're currently using. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going to a therapist or counseling or doing Reiki or, anything, you can pair it with that. And changes happen so quickly. So it's beautiful.
And what is NLP?
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
And so basically that's like neuro is all the information that we take in.
Mm-hmm.
We take in, like, our unconscious is taking in, there's different numbers. The number that I learned through Empowerment Inc., where I had my training, was 2 billion bits of information per second. Our unconscious is taking in and aware of. And then
Mm-hmm.
through as it comes in through our brains, it's deleted, distorted, and generalized into 126 bits per
Okay.
second that we're
Wow.
consciously aware of, right? I know. And so our unconscious is holding all the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're consciously aware, and it deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on our beliefs and values and past experiences and
Mm-hmm.
our patterns and strategies. And
Sure.
so, and then linguistic is what we do with that information through words, right? We
Mm-hmm.
create meaning through things and stories. And then programming is just that, it's programming. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you think about it, like, we used linguistics to create meaning and narrative, to get us where we are in life at this point. And so we can use linguistic to reprogram and make and create different strategies to get the desired result that we want in life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it makes sense that anyone who has a repeat, let's just take your life, for example. You've got this safe girl, right? And so you already have belief systems put into place on how to stay safe. And so, like, if you weren't to undo any of that, which is probably what triggered migraines because you're coping of all the different things. So then the NLP kind of rewires everything, undoes the almost toxicity of our
Mhm.
behaviors and thought patterns, the subconscious part, because, you know, I know people of faith would be like, well, what are you talking about? Because so often people only want to stay in the conscious mind, but we know that's the smallest amount of what we can understand and what is. And people don't always want to acknowledge how energy is so important and God created energy. And
Yes.
so it's like he created all of this energy and people can use it for good or for evil, just like everything
Mhm.
else, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then, and so essentially, I always like to call it the evil realm will take all the bad patterns and it creates loops, and the older you get, it's almost like it gets tighter and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so
Yeah,
then you have to undo all of that. And it can be very quick. I
it
mean, I,
can.
I have experienced, healing can be very fast, all based upon your ability to let go.
Yes.
It's when our conscious mind is like, no, 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 it's not safe, right?
Yeah.
And you let go, and then the healing can occur in the subconscious mind, which then can stop the bad patterns, and
Yeah.
you can start living a life that you were created for.
Yeah, exactly. You're right on. And to add to that and expand on that a little bit too, like your subconscious, it's creating the opposite of everything as well. And so when you have this pattern, your unconscious is creating the opposite. So the opposite is already there. And
Yeah.
so like you said, what we're doing is we're rewiring the brain and recalibrating your nervous system so different information can come through to the conscious. And
Mm-hmm.
then you make the choice. Which one do you want to pick? There are two available here. There's this one and the opposite. And so which
Mm-hmm.
one do you want to pick? And so my trainer, Dr. Matt James with Empowerment Inc., he uses the example of in one of our trainings, he asked everybody, has everyone in the room, how many of you have been angry in your life, angry with someone in your life? And, we all raise our hands. And he says, how long were you angry? For a week? Yeah. A month? Yeah. 3 years? Hands
Mm-hmm.
were going up. 5 years, 10 years. And then he said, how long did it take you to get over it? 10 years, and hands were going up. 5 years, hands were going up. And he goes, did it really take that long, or did you just make a choice in a split second and you were done? Where it took you 10 years to get to the point where you made the
Right.
choice to release it. So to your point, yeah. And we get to this point, and you're right. So with a couple of things that you said, like these strategies, they tighten because the repetition tightens
Mm-hmm.
it, right? And then if we can make the choice, if we bring to our awareness a different option, it takes a split second to make that choice, to do
Mm-hmm.
something different. And it shifts the strategy, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes you out of whatever coping mechanism that you were relying on, whether, people pleasing, over giving, over caring, anything
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Sure.
Checking out, watching TV, checking out, scrolling on your phone. You can change that. You can change that in a split second. And then from there, you need to do new repetitive behavior. There needs to be
Mm-hmm.
new behaviors that then you repeat that create this new
Right.
highway, interstate, if you
Yeah.
will, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah, we were talking, I was our pastor had given a sermon on how to undo, like, where our faith lacks, right? It's like he goes, you can replace it. You stop the bad thinking and you replace it with scripture, good thinking, and you repeat it until your knower accepts it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's true. Like, there's even been some things that I've been doing to undo, programming of, it's very easy to people to relate to making bad choices financially, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, it's almost like stop the pattern, but to be, but before the pattern's completely stopped, you have to stop the bad thinking. You stop the
Yep.
bad thinking by replacing it with good thinking and repetitive truths, good truths,
Yeah. Yeah.
not bad
Helpful.
truths.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so like every day I have like this page, like a little bit, like almost not quite a page and a half of things that I'll say out loud. And even another thing, yeah, I like two things that I like to say out loud to get my conscious to accept it and my subconscious to be like, yes, this is our new norm. We are making good choices. All the whatever the things that you're saying and what you want to do, are true based on what um our Heavenly Father has said about us, good things.
Mm-hmm.
But, the world wants us to think that we're bad.
Yeah.
And we are, I guess, innately bad. Because you see people make decisions, you're like, what are you doing that for? I don't know. And so then you're like, okay, well then let's stop and let's make good choices. Actually, I don't know if you ever had children, but my children are, they're great until they're not great.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like,
so
no,
funny.
let's make better choices, say good things, say uplifting things. And I'm not perfect at it, but that's where we can say stop. Or even when we catch ourselves in the process of rewiring ourselves, it's almost kind of like stop, delete, and say something good
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing, does NLP make that process faster?
It does. It does because you're talking to the unconscious. You're talking to where you're talking to where all the information is held, where all
Mm,
the information that's available to you, right? So you're talking to the unconscious. So it does
mhm.
make it faster for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was going to say something and I forgot when you were talking. So
Oh, so
it'll
sorry.
come back. No, that's okay. Because yeah, it was to add to what you were saying. And it'll come back. But yeah, so NLP makes it quicker because we're talking to the unconscious. And so we can tell the unconscious, hey, you're eating too much potato chips.
Yeah.
That might be, the go-to is to turn the TV on at the end of the night and grab a bag of potato chips, right? And so with NLP, and we can create a different scenario.
Hmm.
We can utilize, like, everything that's coming in is through your five senses. And so we can use, and it's creating a code or a photo,
Hmm.
like an image, right? And so
Hmm.
we can replace this image with this image. So you no longer crave the potato chips. And then you can choose to have a carrot instead, right? Like you
Hmm.
said. And then, oh, to your point, this is what I was going to say as you were talking about, you beautifully articulate, you beautifully laid it out how the whole thing happens with the thoughts coming through, and then the strategy happens, right? And so I like to say to people, like, if you want to change something, like, keep track of what's going on. Keep track of what the trigger is, because there's usually a trigger that begins
Hmm.
the strategy, that begins the thoughts and the self-talk that then leads you into the strategy. And so if you have we have notes app on our phone or a pen and paper, if you want to carry a pen and paper around and old school it, and then
Yeah.
just kind of write down throughout your day these triggers or things that are happening in your environment that then trigger you into the thought pattern and into the action, the strategy that you're currently running. And then
Hmm.
we can use NLP, the linguistics, to reverse, to open up the opposite for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so what results have you seen? What changes? Like, it'd be really cool. I know you not obviously not mentioning names or anything, but what's one of the biggest transformations you've seen based upon someone who made the choice to use NLP to
Oh
get
my
to their
gosh.
destination?
Yeah, I have seen, yeah, two huge ones. A lady, a woman, she is deathly afraid of heights since she was a child. Something I can't remember, around, I think she said around 5, 6 years old. She's been afraid of heights, and she's in her mid 40s now, and she wants to do all these things. Like, she's very active and athletic, and she wants to go mountain climbing and um do uh, like extreme sports and things like that, but it requires heights, climbing up a mountain or getting in an airplane or something like that. And so it's this fear is debilitating. It's holding her back from the things that she really wants to do in life. And
Uh-huh.
there's a technique, a phobia technique, and in less than 10 minutes, it was gone. And
Wow.
it was so bad to the point where she couldn't even look at a photo of,
Hmm.
like, if, people would take a photo from the hot, from a peak of a mountain or something, or from a higher level, and you could look out over things. She couldn't even look at a photo because it was so bad. And
Mm.
in less than 10 minutes, it shifted to where she was looking. I found a YouTube video of someone who had filmed going up a skyscraper on a glass elevator.
Okay.
And she was looking at the video and she was just like, oh my gosh. And she couldn't stop looking at it because she could look at it. And it was amazing. And then she just started crying, and she's like, this is going to change my whole entire life. And, now she's
Yeah.
off and doing these things. And then the other one is there's an allergy technique that we can do to release allergies. And there's
Really?
there's this young woman who is deathly, literally, I'm not making that up, like deathly allergic to peanuts, to the point where a year prior to when we did this technique, she was at a family function and someone opened up peanuts in the other room and she went into anaphylactic shock.
Even with this, so just with the dust.
Yeah, she had to be rushed to the ER. And so the whole family on Easter was in the ER with her.
Wow.
And this technique that they did, I did not do this one on her. My instructor did this as a demo in our training. And so she went up on stage and she explained, this, how allergic she is, and she told this story. And he said, okay. And so this was like a week into the training, and so he had got to know, everybody who was there at the train. There were like 50, 60 people, and he had gotten to know everybody there. He's like, okay, we have a fire chief here, right? And she raised her hand and he's like, we've got a nurse here. Do you have an EpiPen with you? And she's like, yes, I've got 2 EpiPens. And she held them up. And then there was, I think, someone with EMT background. And he's like, okay, we are covered here. Do you feel safe to like go through this and then do a test and go through the whole process? She's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. And so he went through the technique. It's less than 10 minutes. And he said, okay, do you want to test? And she said, yeah. He's like, are you sure? We've got all these people ready to go. And so one of the assistants had put some peanuts in a bowl. So it was open and was walking up the aisle toward her, and she's just sitting there like, nothing is happening. And then he handed her the bowl and she took it in her hands and she's like, wow, what is happening right now? And then she put her face in the bowl and sniffed the peanuts, and she was fine. And
did she eat one?
no,
Just like, come on, eat it.
No, I know. I was just gonna say, Dr. Matt, he's like, let's wait till you get home to eat it. He's like,
well, that way there's nobody around you to like.
I know. But just to be like, to go from like not even being able to have that in the room to, and it's unbelievable. And even the shifts in me that I've experienced. And then, my clients come to me with life and business stuff, right? And so we kind of dig into like what's holding you back in relationships and career and finance and money and things like that. And they'll have these huge breakthroughs like right in front of me. And then they literally, it's almost like this stuff is happening. It's happening unconsciously, right? And in the body. And it takes a minute for your brain to catch up, is what it feels like. You're kind of like, whoa, I feel this change. And but I'm like used to talking this way and used to doing these things, but that's not where my body is leading me anymore. And so it takes your brain a little bit to kind of catch up. But
it's almost like, how you talked about the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Your body's used to going this way, and
and then it goes this way,
and it needs to go this way, and it takes a little bit. I've got a couple questions for you because I'm super fascinated. So I have a client whose daughter is about to go on a disability. They just ordered like you can buy one on TV, a disability lawyer. And she had said, no, I'm going to say the wrong word. It's not narcolepsy. That's when you fall asleep. Whatever the one that you're afraid to go out in public. You can't even leave the house.
Yeah.
What is that? Starts with a G, I think. Well, anyway.
Agoraphobia.
Yeah. So she's only 22.
Wow.
She can't even leave the house. They have to drug her to get her to go anywhere.
Wow.
So would that be somebody that you could help? Okay, because I'm going to, when we get off this podcast, let's figure out how to make that introduction. And I'm super curious about something for myself. So my body is, you'll see that I'm like puffy, right? It's
Mhm.
because there's things in my body that need to process properly through the pathways, the lymphatic system, all the different things. So it doesn't, I don't just take an Ozempic shot, drop the weight, it goes into my organs and kills me. That's what we don't want, right? So the question I have is like, I've got rashes. My body, I think when I was doing an assisted lymphatic therapy session, I did several in a row. The technician pushed my body too hard, and I think it pulled mold from the inside of my body, and it's chelating on my skin. And I've had rash for like 2 months. Is
Oh
the
no.
NLP something that can help your body like feel safe enough to process?
Yeah.
Because I'm just super curious because I'm pretty sure I've experienced NLP. I can't ask the person if I did or not because he's no longer with us. But
Hmm.
I think it was in like, I was at my friend's house. I can't even remember why I was there. And I was in the middle of going through a divorce, all the different things.
Hmm.
And he was helping me process emotions. Because
Hmm.
people were just like, how is it that you went through so much so quickly? And my life was like, our lives and it didn't, I didn't have to go through NLP to experience a very similar thing, but you can experience a lot of life in a very short amount of time
Yes, you
when
can.
you're in alignment to what God's will is and your body's going boom, boom, go, 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 and there's nothing holding you back.
You are so correct. Yeah. And it comes down to choice and faith
Right.
and letting go.
Yes,
And that's it.
absolutely.
That's it. You
And
make
it's so,
a
and it's
choice, like
amazing.
I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this. I'm gonna have faith. I'm gonna go into the unknown. I don't know what the heck is gonna happen,
Yeah.
but let's go, God.
It's so true. And oh my gosh, it's so like yeah, because that in 2023, like I literally my God healed my gift, restored my gift for writing. He sold my business. It was not for sale, girl. And like it got a phone call like, hey, you want to sell your insurance business? I'm like, give me a number.
Yeah.
Because anybody who knows anything about sales, whoever lists the number first loses. I knew better not to give the number. So I sold the business. And then the Lord said, wait, I failed miserably. But that's okay. God restores all things, makes all paths straight.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is learning to forgive all the things that I didn't wait for,
Mm-hmm.
right? And did things in my own strength, which when we
Mm-hmm.
do that, when we do everything in the conscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
which we can, not always, screw everything up.
Yeah. Yes. We certainly can get in our own way. Absolutely.
Right.
And
And
usually we are 100%, usually it's about 99%, I would say we are the ones getting in our own way
yeah, totally.
through our heads,
Right, right. I
for
could have
sure.
literally had a season of rest, but because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like,
that
I tell
surrender.
people, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, when you're like, you're an insurance agent, you're a high driven, you're dealing with all the stress, phone calls night and day,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, business sales, boom, done. You get told to
Yep.
wait and rest. And you're like,
Yeah.
you feel like you hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know who to tell. I didn't
Yeah.
trust. It was like a whole weird experience of like all of a sudden not trusting anybody. And that went on for a while because and even I've even made some decisions that, depleted our finances. The money from the sale, boom, gone. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh, how did this happen in 6 months? Like it was supposed to last us like 18 months. And man, girl, there was some learning lessons. And what's cool is that I know that God will restore all the devour
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was like, because when people say, oh, you have money, oh, let's devour it up. Let's make bad
Mm.
choices. I can guide you. And you're just like, take the money and lead you the wrong direction. You're like, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's super fascinating. I'm so glad that we talked about this because and then I do have one more question for any listeners. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like I don't live where Tina lives, and so everything is done over the phone or over the
Yeah. We
internet,
can do
right?
everything over Zoom. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty cool. I remember it being like super simple, and it's not a hypnosis. It's
It's
literally,
not.
isn't it like waves or frequencies?
Well, it's yeah, it's it actually we use the word trance, like you go into a trance, but it's not like it's not scary hypnosis. I
No,
don't,
no,
you
no.
know, I don't want to scare people by using these words.
Right, right.
What All we're doing is we're talking to the unconscious mind, and then we're in this, yeah, it's energy, right? We're in this space of where we're in this, we're doing this thing together. And so the focus is there. It's basically focus is all it is, right? We're just
Mhm,
focusing on what's happening. And we use the word trance, hypnosis, things like that. And that can feel scary to some people, but it's
mhm,
basically it's what we're doing right now. We're talking to each other and we're having this beautiful conversation and we're
mhm.
focused on the conversation.
Right.
Both of us are here now, and this
Mhm.
is it's a trance. You
Right,
know,
right, right.
we're focused and
Yeah,
focused energy right here. And so that's basically what it is. You can
right.
close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open if you want. And we're talking back and forth to each other, and it's a very, very simple process.
Yeah, it's super cool. You
Yeah.
know, it's funny because I even tell people, I'm like, when you are doing anything with the power of the Holy Spirit, you become outside time, which
Yeah.
is the same.
It,
It's like
yeah,
it's just like all of a sudden it is. I'm not even talking about hours go boom, boom. It can, but what
it
I mean
can.
is when you become outside time, a lot can happen in a short amount of time.
That's how you collapse timelines.
Right.
That's what I call it. And it's that focused energy and
Mm-hmm.
choice. So you make the choice, I'm going to do this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you allow it to unfold as it's going to unfold with complete focus. And then boom, it can happen. Like you said, in 6 months, it can happen 2 months. It can happen in a split second, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
or like the woman that
Whatever.
allergic to the peanuts, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it means like to me, anyone who's suffering with anything so debilitating that you can't even leave the home.
At
I mean,
23.
what do you have to lose? So you stay
Yeah.
home.
You have nothing
You're
to lose.
already home
Yeah.
and you can't leave the house. So the worst case scenario is you stay the same.
Exactly, right. Exactly. And then some of this stuff, now that would be, I don't want listeners to get the wrong impression, like one time, 10 minutes and it's done. For
Right.
some things, yes. And for other things, it may be like this one time, 10 minutes, and then she's able to walk outside and walk around the block.
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
we meet again, and then she's able to go a little bit further away from home. It could be, depending on what's going on in her
Right.
body, the emotions that she's holding in her body and
Sure.
the story that she's running in her head. There's all kinds of things. So I don't want listeners to get the wrong impression.
Good.
Sometimes it does take more, more than one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Take an entire breakthrough session, which is like a 6-hour session. We'll probably start there with her and then do, regular sessions after that until she gets to the point where she's just naturally moving about in
Yeah,
her
yeah.
life.
She can get in the
Yeah.
car with her mom, go to the grocery
Yeah.
store,
Yeah.
no harm, no foul. Go to the doctor, no
Exactly.
big deal. Go for a
Yep.
walk, don't feel like you're gonna die. And what's
Yeah.
weird is it's been triggered this spring. It wasn't like I'm like, oh, it triggered in COVID.
Oh,
Usually, I could see it totally getting triggered in COVID, right?
yeah. And some people
But no.
come
And
out of
I'm like,
that.
did
Yeah.
something happen? She goes, well, she's not telling us anything happened. So there's something that happened. But
Interesting.
nobody knows. She won't tell
So
anybody.
there was was it like a one day she's here and the next day she's here kind of situation?
Yeah, that's the way her mom explained it.
Wow.
So, like to me, in my brain, it means if this quickly you're here and you're here, you can quickly not be there.
Yeah.
I mean, in
Yeah.
theory, I guess it just depends. And like you said, how much are you willing to surrender and let go?
Yeah.
And like to me, if we're catching it at the beginning, there's less to undo,
Yeah.
unless there was a buildup and then created a trap.
Yes.
So, which is a
Yes.
thing
Which
too.
is, it is. It totally is. You're right. And
And
yeah,
so
and you're right. We do
you're
want
like
to
you're
catch it
ignoring all the
earlier.
symptoms, right? You're ignoring all your things, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you end up with these debilitating migraines.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it
So
was building up for years probably. And I
yeah, yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
listening and I just kept going and kept working 60, 80 hours a week. And I
Uh-huh.
got this. I can do this. I'm tough. All
Yeah,
the
yeah.
things.
I'm gonna take over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
Boom,
exactly. And then
down.
all of a sudden, no, the universe, God is like, yeah, no, you're not. You need to rest. You need to take care of yourself.
Well,
And so,
that's
yeah,
right.
you're right. But you're right also about the sooner you do this, the better, because in the process of staying home like this, now she's creating habits and strategies and patterns around being home. And we don't want that to,
Right.
to become something bigger than it needs to be, for sure.
Sure. Well, anyone that might be listening, I'd love for them to be like, oh my gosh, I've got to talk to Tina. Like, I'm struggling with this. Nobody's been able to help me figure it out, because I'm a big proponent of don't believe that there's not an answer, because there's always an answer. God says we are healed by the stripes of Jesus. That does not mean we get to stay sick. It doesn't mean we never die, but it does not mean we get to stay in the answer of, sorry, we don't know what's wrong with you. Too bad.
Yeah. We don't have to. I'm living
Yeah.
proof of that.
Right. So like anyone who, I would love for you to speak a word of encouragement to anyone who might have heard the word, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you, too bad, and how they connect with you.
Okay, first of all, if you've heard a phrase like that, rewrite that phrase for yourself. Because when you hear a phrase like that, it repeats inside your head. And the more it repeats, the deeper the belief goes, right? So number one, rephrase that phrase to be positive. Like, there is something that can be done. What is it? God, provide me with a person, place, or thing that will lead me in the direction to get me out of this, whatever it is, and phrase it in a very positive way. And then the person, the podcast, the book, something will drop in, right? Maybe it's this podcast here. I don't know, right? So start there. Reframe that phrase. Number one, period, end of story. Do that right away, so that stops repeating in your head. And then from there, pay attention to what is around you, what is available to you. You might meet someone in a grocery store line who might have an answer for you. So nothing is out of, nothing is out of context here. So have conversations with people, listen to what people say. God, we cross paths with everybody for a reason, right? So pay attention. And then if you want to reach out to me, my website is thesovereignsoul.co. I'm sure you're going to link it in the show notes. So thesovereignsoul.co. And I have a contact page on there. My phone number, email, everything is on there. And you can book appointments right from there as well. You can book a 15-minute chat, get to know me. So if you have any questions, I would start there. So we could just like meet over Zoom. I was going to say in person, but in person via over Zoom, we can talk about what's going on in your world, and then we can see if it's a good match for us to work together. And if not, I have some good referrals too for people. So don't give up. I tell everybody you've said it, just don't give up. There's got to be an answer. There has to be something. I don't want to give people false hope, but at the same time, don't give up.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer of, even if you don't think this is the right fit, that's fine. Everybody has free will and everybody knows what God has for their lives, but refuse to settle for anything other than God's best for your life.
Yeah, exactly.
So, oh my gosh,
Well
this was
said.
so much fun. I hope you had a great time.
Yeah, this is great. You're amazing. I love your energy. You're so fun.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Tina, for sharing your heart with us today. To our listeners, remember, your story isn't over and you are not disqualified with what you've been through or might even be going through. With Jesus Christ, you are healed, whole, and called. Till next time. Bye.
If today's conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a question, or a quiet sense of calling, I invite you to honor that. You can follow Healed, Whole, Called on the platform you're listening on. And if this episode resonated, leaving a review helps these conversations reach others who may need them. If you know someone walking a similar path, consider sharing this episode with them. And if you're carrying a story or testimony and feel a nudge to do something more with it, the Story Discernment Guide was created for you. It's a reflective resource designed to help you pause, pray, and gain clarity before taking any next step. You can access it at storycalling.info. Thank you for being here and for stewarding what you've been given.